The ground shook under his boots. Lieutenant Jason Merrick stood still as dust fell from the jungle canopy above him. Trees creaked, leaves shimmered under the strange green light. He wasn't on Earth anymore. This planet, Zerintha Prime, was supposed to be empty. That's what the mission brief had said. But then the sky cracked open with thunder that didn't belong, and the trees whispered warnings no machine could hear. He wasn't alone. Something was watching. Jason raised his weapon but didn't fire. He moved slow, carefully. It was hard to explain, but every fiber of his body told him the jungle was alive, not just full of animals or alien bugs. Alive like it had a mind of its own. That's when he saw her. She stepped from the mist like a nightmare sculpted into beauty. Tall, glowing green skin patterned with glowing lines, like fire dancing under her flesh. Long hair that floated like silk in water, and eyes, burning, gold, locked on him with fury. She didn't carry a weapon, she didn't need to. Jason lowered his rifle, not because he trusted her, but because something in her presence made guns feel small, like metal wouldn't matter here. She walked closer, snarling. A deep growl escaped her throat. She bared her fangs and raised her hand. A spark of light danced between her fingers, ready to strike. But she didn't attack, he didn't step back. "What are you?" she asked, her voice like stone sliding over ice. "Human," he said, steady. "I'm not here to hurt you." She laughed. Not a kind laugh. Sharp, angry, broken. "Your kind rains fire from the sky. You trample roots sacred to my blood. And yet you speak peace?" Jason stood his ground. The jungle behind him groaned as if it waited for his answer too. "We came because we thought this world was abandoned. I didn't know it had a queen." Her eyes narrowed. "I am Queen Isariel of the Myrnai. This jungle answers to me. And now you've stepped where only the bloodbound may walk." Jason slowly took off his helmet. He didn't know what he was doing. Every protocol in his training told him to retreat, call command, and wait for orders. But this wasn't a normal battlefield. And she wasn't a normal enemy. "I'm not your enemy," he said. "But if you want one, I won't run." The light between her fingers flared. For a second, he thought she would strike. She didn't. Instead, she lowered her hand and studied him. "No human ever stood still before my wrath," she said. "I'm not most humans." Silence fell. Heavy. Deep. The jungle leaned in, then a scream tore through the air. Not hers, not his, but something massive. Angry. Wounded. Jason turned just in time to see the trees part like waves. A beast taller than a dropship with tusks made of bone and a roar that made the air ripple, charged at them. Isariel didn't flinch. Jason didn't hesitate. He ran toward it. Blades of energy exploded around them, vines wrapped around his legs, but he tore through. The queen launched green fire, but it only slowed the creature. Jason leaped, grabbing a broken spear from the ground. He climbed the beast's side like a soldier possessed. When he drove the spear into its eye, the jungle itself screamed. The beast fell. Jason landed beside her, blood on his face, heart pounding. She stared at him, stunned. Her snarl had faded. Her fire dimmed. "You touched the heart of the beast," she whispered. "And it did not kill you." Jason looked at her. Maybe I was meant to be here. For the first time, she didn't answer with rage. She answered with silence. The jungle went quiet. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Jason stood beside the beast's body, his hands shaking slightly now that the danger had passed. Queen Isariel didn't move. Her golden eyes studied him like he was some ancient puzzle just discovered beneath the dirt. She took a slow step forward. Her glowing hand reached out not to attack, but to touch the blood on his arm. The blood wasn't his. It belonged to the creature that had nearly crushed them both. She lifted her hand and watched the dark stain drip from her fingers. "No outsider has ever struck a sacred guardian and lived," she said quietly. Jason looked at the beast, then at her. "That thing was going to kill us both." Isariel tilted her head. It was summoned to test you. You were not supposed to survive. Jason blinked. You summoned that? She turned away from him and walked back into the jungle. I did not expect your strength or your madness. He followed, still confused but not willing to let her vanish into the glowing trees. Why test me? I didn't even know this place existed until yesterday. Sariel didn't answer right away. She led him down a narrow path between thick vines and shimmering leaves. The deeper they walked, the stranger the jungle became. Plants moved when they breathed. Light came from the ground instead of the sky. Everything pulsed, like it was part of something living. Watching. At last, she stopped beside a glowing pool surrounded by stones. The water shimmered like melted emerald. She looked into it, her voice lower than before. This planet does not welcome strangers, but it listens to me, and I am bound to its laws. One of those laws says that when a foreign warrior steps into our soil and defeats a guardian beast, he must not be killed. He must be tested again. Jason raised an eyebrow. Another test? She finally turned to face him. This one is not of strength, it is of spirit, of honor. He crossed his arms. And how do you test that? Her eyes narrowed, then softened just a little. You stay. You walk with us. You eat our food. You breathe our air. And we watch. Jason wasn't sure if this was a threat or an invitation. Maybe both. But he nodded. Fine. I didn't come to fight your people. I'll prove whatever I need to. The queen turned and gestured to the shadows. From the trees, figures began to appear. Tall warriors with glowing eyes and patterned armor. Some held weapons made from bone and crystal. Others carried vines that pulsed with energy. They looked at Jason with suspicion, but none attacked. Sariel stepped forward and spoke in a language Jason didn't understand. The warriors listened, then parted to form a path. She looked at him once more. You are now part of the trial. You will live among us. You will be watched and judged. Jason took a deep breath. And if I pass? She didn't smile, but her voice changed. Softer. Deeper. Then the jungle will accept you. And so will I. Jason looked into her glowing eyes. Something in her tone had shifted. She was no longer just a queen. She was something more ancient, more powerful. And for the first time he realized the trial wasn't just for him. Something about this bond was changing her too. He followed her into the jungle city, unaware that his fate had already started to change the fate of a queen. The jungle city of Mernthra rose from the trees like a dream carved in stone and light. Towers shaped like twisted vines shimmered with green fire. Bridges floated without cables, glowing softly as creatures walked across them. Everything looked alive, breathing, ancient and strange. Jason followed Queen Sariel through the heart of the city. Her people stared at him with wide eyes and tight grips on their weapons. Whispers followed his steps. Some called him a trespasser. Others called him beast tamer, but none came close. None dared. Sariel led him to a chamber carved into a giant root. The walls pulsed with light. Vines wrapped around the door but moved aside when she stepped near. Inside was simple: stone, moss, and a pool of glowing water. A place to rest. Or a cage with soft edges. You will stay here until I say otherwise, she said. Jason looked around. No chains. That's a good start. You're not a prisoner, she replied, but you are not free. He nodded slowly. Understood. She watched him for a moment longer, then turned to leave. But just before the vines closed the doorway behind her, she spoke again. The trial begins at dawn. Jason sat by the pool, his mind racing. What kind of trial was this? Was it about survival, trust, or something deeper? He didn't know, but he knew he couldn't treat this place like a battlefield. It felt sacred. Alive. That night he couldn't sleep. The jungle whispered outside. Strange songs, alien voices, something moved through the trees. Not beasts, but watchers, guardians of the queen. He could feel their presence even without seeing them. At sunrise, the door opened without warning. A young warrior entered. Female. Not Isariel. Her skin shimmered, like polished stone, and her eyes were calm. "I am Thalai," she said. "I have been chosen to guide you." Jason stood. "Where's the queen?" "She watches. Always. But today I speak." She led him through narrow paths between the city's roots. Along the way, she asked no questions. She simply observed. Jason spoke first. "What does this trial mean? What are the rules?" Thalai looked at him. "There are no rules, only truth. You cannot fake honor. You cannot pretend courage. The jungle sees you, the queen feels it." Jason frowned. "Feels it? She is bonded to the soil. Her spirit is part of the land. When you saved her from the beast, something shifted. Now, your steps echo through the roots." Jason wasn't sure if she was speaking metaphorically or literally. Either way, it felt like he was walking inside someone's heartbeat. They reached a clearing where 3 elders stood beside a circle of carved stones. Thalai gestured for him to enter. "Speak your name," one elder said. "Jason Merrick. Speak your truth." Jason hesitated. The clearing was silent, the air thick, his thoughts heavy. "I came here thinking this was an empty world. I followed orders. Then I saw something real, something powerful, and I chose not to raise my weapon. That's the truth." The elder nodded. The ground beneath Jason began to glow. Soft light crawled around his feet, wrapping him like a quiet flame. The stones pulsed. The elders didn't move. Then the light vanished. "You have spoken," the elder said. "Now we wait." Jason looked confused. Wait for what? For the queen's heart to decide. Back at the temple, Queen Isariel stood in silence. Her hand rested against a living root, her eyes closed. She could feel Jason's words as if they were seeds planted in the soil of her soul. And though she said nothing, something inside her began to bloom. Queen Isariel sat alone in the Temple of Roots. Thick vines wrapped around the walls, pulsing with the same rhythm as her heartbeat. Her fingers pressed into the living wood, eyes closed. Jason's words still echoed through her veins. The bond had started the moment he struck down the guardian beast. But now it was growing. She didn't like it. She had ruled for over a century, without challenge. Her voice could command storms. Her presence made armies kneel. Yet this human, with his simple courage and stubborn eyes, had disturbed something sacred, something buried deep within her. Isariel opened her eyes. "He speaks like he belongs," she whispered. The vines rustled in agreement. Outside the temple, Jason trained with Thalai. The young warrior didn't go easy on him. Her staff strikes were fast and sharp, but Jason had quick reflexes. He didn't use brute force. He moved smart, light on his feet, focused. Thalai stopped suddenly and lowered her weapon. "You fight like a protector," she said, "not a conqueror." Jason wiped sweat from his brow. Never liked bullies, even back on Earth. Thalai tilted her head. "Yet your people came here ready to take what wasn't theirs." Jason nodded. "That's why I'm here, to prove we don't all follow orders blindly." Thalai looked into the trees, then back at him. "The queen feels your truth, but others do not. Many still wish you gone." Jason frowned. "Then I'll keep proving it, one action at a time." Later that evening, Jason was summoned to the temple. He entered without fear now. He'd learned that courage was more than just facing danger. It was facing someone who could destroy you, and choosing honesty anyway. Sariel sat atop a throne made from tree roots. The glow of the temple lit her face, softer this time. Not angry, not hostile. "You've passed the first trial," she said. "But the next is harder." Jason stood tall. "What is it?" She rose from the throne. Her steps were slow, graceful, like she was walking on breath. "You must face your past." Jason blinked. "My past?" Isariel reached into the air and a vine unraveled, forming a swirling pool of light between them. "This is the root mirror," she said. "It shows what you carry inside, the pain, The fear. The truth. Jason hesitated. I didn't come here to spill my soul. She stepped closer. Then you will never be one with the jungle or with me. Her words hit harder than he expected. He looked into her eyes. That fire he first saw was still there, but now it burned slower, deeper. He stepped forward and looked into the mirror. Visions rushed up. Earth. Fire. A battlefield on Mars. Friends screaming, orders given. Civilians caught in the crossfire. A choice he made to follow those orders, and the guilt he buried. Jason clenched his fists. I was a soldier, he said. I did what I thought was right. But sometimes I wonder if I left my humanity behind. Isariel didn't speak. She only watched. The vines around the mirror pulsed, then slowly calmed. The light faded. You didn't hide, she said softly. You didn't lie. That matters more than you know. Jason lowered his head. So what happens now? She stepped closer, so close that he could feel the heat of her presence. Now the bond deepens, and the jungle listens more. Jason didn't move. Her voice wasn't just commanding anymore. It was tender. He looked into her glowing eyes, and for the first time he saw more than a queen. He saw a soul reaching through centuries of isolation. And maybe, just maybe, reaching for him. Storm clouds rolled over the canopy. The jungle darkened. Thunder cracked in the distance. Jason stood at the edge of the city with Thalai, watching the sky twist in unnatural colors. It wasn't just weather. It was warning. The jungle reacts to danger, Thalai said. Something is coming. Jason narrowed his eyes. From outside? She nodded. Your people. Jason's stomach turned. He had feared this day would come. A signal must have reached command. Maybe they thought he was dead. Maybe they came to rescue him. Or maybe they came to finish what they started, claiming Zerintha Prime. He ran to the Temple of Roots. Isariel stood already waiting for him, her hands pressed deep into the glowing vines, eyes closed. Her voice rang before he even spoke. They approach with machines, fires in the sky, blades that spit metal. Jason stepped forward. You have to let me speak to them. If they attack, everything here will burn. Isariel's eyes opened. This world has defended itself for thousands of years. It does not fear fire. But I do, Jason said. I've seen what they can do. I've seen what war takes. Your people will fight, but my kind fights to erase, to win, even if it means losing everything. Isariel looked at him, her expression unreadable. You ask me to trust the heart of a stranger. Jason shook his head. No, I'm asking you to trust mine. Silence fell. Then she raised her hand and pressed it to his chest. I feel the bond. I cannot explain it. It frightens me. Jason placed his hand over hers. Then we fight fear together. She turned to her council. Dozens of warriors and elders stood in the chamber. The room pulsed with quiet tension. Some looked ready for battle, others filled with doubt. One elder stepped forward and raised his voice. The human is a shadow from a world that poisons stars. Why should we follow him into danger? Jason stepped forward. Because I won't fight to take this world. I'll fight to protect it. The queen spoke. He has faced the mirror. He carries shame. But shame shapes honor. After a long pause, the elder bowed his head. Jason took a breath. I need to speak to my people. Alone. No, Isariel said. You will not face them. Alone, he looked at her. They won't understand you. They don't need to. They will see me. And they will understand what they risk. The storm deepened. Lights flickered across the sky. Ships began to pierce the clouds above the jungle. Dropships, armored, armed. Jason climbed a high platform near the city's edge. He activated the emergency beacon strapped to his belt. A few minutes passed before the ship lights turned toward him. A voice crackled through the air. Lieutenant Merrick? Are you alive? I'm here, he replied. What's your status? I'm not captured. I'm not lost. I'm standing with the Queen of Zarintha Prime, and I need you to back off. Silence followed. Then a cold new voice spoke. You're out of line, Lieutenant. Step away. We're claiming this world under Directive 7. Jason looked at Azariel, beside him. She didn't speak. She waited for him. He raised the communicator. Then you'll have to go through me. In the sky, the ship stopped moving, hovering, watching. And from the jungle below, thousands of glowing warriors rose like the earth itself had awakened. Jason and Azariel stood at the front, not as enemies, not as strangers, but as one. The air pulsed with tension. Jason stood tall beside Azariel, facing the steel shapes hanging in the sky. The human dropships didn't open fire, but their weapons glowed beneath their hulls. It was a warning. One wrong move and this sacred jungle would become a battlefield. Azariel raised her hand slowly. Vines from the platform slithered up her arm, glowing brighter. Her warriors behind her held their ground without flinching. They trusted her. And now they trusted Jason too. Give me a secure channel, Jason said, turning to the communication panel. The voice from the ship returned. Lieutenant Merrick, you're under direct military protocol. Return to our control, or we will. Proceed. Jason breathed in deep. He spoke clearly into the mic. You think you're rescuing me. You're not. You think this world is defenseless. It's not. You think these people are savages. They are not. Static buzzed before the response came. You've gone native, Merrick. You don't get to decide policy. Jason stepped forward. I didn't decide anything. I listened, and maybe you should too. Azariel moved beside him. Though she couldn't understand every word, she could feel the rhythm of his voice. The jungle roots beneath her vibrated. The bond was growing stronger, not just between her and Jason, but between her people and something greater. Hope. Suddenly, one of the ships lowered closer. Its undercarriage opened. A small shuttle detached and descended fast. Jason tensed, unsure if it carried diplomats or soldiers. It landed hard on the forest floor. The hatch hissed open. 3 figures emerged, all in dark armor. One wore the symbol of a high-ranking Earth officer, Colonel Braddock. Jason knew him from before. A strict man. No heart for diplomacy, only strategy. Braddock stepped forward, eyes locked on Jason. You're a good soldier, Merrick. You survived. Things most can't. So why are you standing with aliens? Jason replied, calm but firm. Because they treated me like more than a soldier. They treated me like a soul. Braddock scoffed. That's not how the world works. It's how this one does. Braddock's eyes shifted to Azariel. She's the queen? Azariel didn't look away. Her gaze met his with full force. Her presence made the leaves tremble. Braddock hesitated, only for a second, but Jason saw it. She is the jungle, Jason said. You step on this land with weapons and you declare war on something older than any empire we've built. Braddock didn't respond. His men looked unsure now. The warriors surrounding the clearing hadn't moved, but their stillness felt like a storm waiting. Then Braddock gave a small nod. Fall back to the ship, he told his men. They hesitated. Now. The soldiers obeyed. The shuttle lifted. The ships above hummed, then slowly pulled back toward the clouds. They weren't retreating fully. Not yet. But they were thinking. Jason let out the breath he'd been holding. Beside him, Azariel watched the sky with unreadable eyes. They will return, she said, with more fire, more fear. Jason looked at her. Then we'll stand again. She turned to him. Not as strangers, not as enemies. He nodded. As one. That night the jungle glowed brighter than ever. Songs filled the trees. Lights danced across the roots. A silent celebration, no words, just the feeling that something powerful had changed. But deep beneath the roots something stirred. Not human, not Murney. Something older. Something that didn't care about peace or war. And it had awakened. The jungle sang that night. Lights flickered like stars across the treetops. Warriors laid down their weapons. Children ran barefoot through glowing moss. Jason walked beside Isariel, silent, his thoughts still spinning from the standoff with Earth soldiers, but something felt wrong. Isariel paused as they approached the Temple of Roots. Her hand brushed the bark of the great living wall. Her face tightened. "The roots tremble," she whispered. "But not from the sky. Something stirs below." Jason stepped closer. "What do you mean?" "This planet was not always ours. Long ago, something else ruled here. We buried it deep, when it threatened the balance, but it wakes now." As if answering her, the ground shivered beneath them, not a quake, not thunder, a pulse, like something breathing beneath the soil. In the distance, a howl echoed. Not beast, not human. It shook the leaves off the trees. Jason reached for his weapon. Where did that come from? Thalai ran up the path, face pale with fear. The deep grove. Something broke through the sealed chamber. The old door has opened. Isariel's face turned cold. The Hollowborn. Jason had never heard the word before, but it made his blood chill. What are they? Isariel turned to him. Things that should not live, shadows with no breath. We thought them gone, buried beneath stone and time, but our bond, our fight. It must have stirred them. Thalai whispered. We are not ready for this. Jason's voice hardened. Then we get ready. Within the hour, the jungle city became a fortress. Bioluminescent barricades rose. Vines thickened into walls. Warriors armed with crystal spears took positions, and Jason stood among them, not as an outsider now, but as one of their own. Isariel summoned her council. In the chamber, the vines on the walls no longer pulsed with peace. They glowed sharp, red, alert. Jason listened as the elders spoke of the Hollowborn, creatures born in death, feeding on life. When their world was young, they had tried to consume it. They were sealed, in stone by the first queens of the jungle, but the seal had weakened. The bond awakened more than peace, an elder said. It shook the roots of everything. Isariel's voice cut through the room. Then we must hold the line. Jason stepped forward. You're not alone in this. She looked at him. Your people won't return for us. He nodded. Then, we don't need them. They moved out before dawn. Jason, Isariel, Thalai, and 100 Murnai warriors marched into the heart of the jungle. The deep grove waited like an open wound. Mist clung to the air. The trees stopped whispering. Even, the animals had fled. Then they saw it. The sealed stone door, cracked and blackened, leaking smoke that didn't rise. It sank. From the darkness, something slithered. Pale. Wrong. Hollow-eyed and silent. Isariel raised her arm. They do not fear pain. They only know hunger. Jason stepped beside her. Then we starved them. The Hollowborn came in waves. No screams. No sound. Just the crunch of roots and the stink of death. Jason fought with fire and blade. Isariel summoned vines like whips. Thalai danced between enemies, her crystal staff crackling with light. But for every creature they struck down, 2 more crawled from the dark. Jason's arm bled. His legs trembled. But he didn't fall. He looked to his side. Isariel stood strong, but her eyes burned too bright. The bond was draining her. Every strike she made with the jungle's power cost her something. He reached for her. You can't fight them alone, she whispered back, voice shaking. Then hold on. Don't let go. Together they pressed forward. Not human, not queen, but something in between. The grove burned with green fire. The ground split under their feet as more Hollowborn rose from the cracks. Jason's blade felt heavy. His lungs screamed. He had fought wars before, but never like this. These creatures didn't bleed. They didn't stop. And they weren't afraid. Isariel stood beside him, her arms glowing with power pulled from the jungle's core. but her skin was turning pale. Every burst of energy from her drained the life around them. The plants wilted, the roots shook. Even the sky had turned dark. Jason caught her as she stumbled. "You're giving too much," he said. "If I stop, they'll break through. Then we find another way." The battle was slipping from them. Mirnai warriors were falling. Thalai was wounded, her staff cracked. The enemy was endless. Jason looked at the cracked seal behind them. It pulsed now. Open wider. Something bigger was coming. Something old. Suddenly he remembered the mirror. The way the jungle had listened when he spoke the truth. It had felt him, accepted him. And Izariel had said their bond echoed through the roots. He stepped away from the fight. "Jason," Izariel called. "What are you doing?" He dropped his blade and placed both hands on the dirt. He spoke with everything inside him. "I'm not from here. I'm not part of your past. But I fought for this land. I bled for it. I stood with her when others ran. And now I'm begging you. Help us stop this." The roots responded, not with light, but with silence. A deep breath, then a tremble. From the ground, a surge of green shot through Jason's body. It lifted him off the dirt and wrapped him in vines that didn't hurt. They held him steady, lifted him high. At the same time, Isariel gasped as the jungle pulled her too. Their hands met midair. Their bond was complete. A great pulse echoed through the forest. Not magic, not machines. Life. The roots below them surged toward the cracked seal. Vines thicker than towers slammed into the opening, pushing back the hollowborn. Earth folded, stone sealed again. The dark smoke howled as it was crushed. The air cleared, and then silence. The hollowborn faded into ash. The jungle breathed once more. Jason dropped to the ground, coughing. Alive. Sariel landed beside him, her glow dimming. She looked at him with tears in her eyes. "You spoke with the voice of the roots. I just told the truth." She smiled for the first time. "You are no longer outsider." The warriors behind them stood in awe, not just because the threat was gone, but because they had seen something sacred. The bond between queen and human had saved them. Days passed. The jungle began to heal. Earth ships never returned, and Jason stayed, not because he was trapped, but because he had found something no battlefield had ever given him. Peace. One evening, Isariel walked beside him under the glowing canopy. She stopped near the old root temple, now rebuilt and alive again. "Do you regret saving me?" she asked. Jason looked into her golden eyes. "Not for a second. And now that we are bound, what do you choose?" He didn't speak right away. He took her hand. "I choose to stay. With you. For as long as the jungle lets me." The trees swayed gently as if in approval. And far above, where the stars watched silently, a new story had begun. Not of conquest, not of war, but of trust, and of two souls, never meant to meet, who changed a world by standing together.